Okay, I'm back from an amazing 2-week trip in Europe, and I brought with me all of this gear. The Lumix S5IIX, the 20-60 kit lens, the 85mm DJI Osmo Pocket 2 with ND filters, a Rode mic, Video Mic Pro Plus, and this small Canon bag to drag it all around in. I wanted to bring the Blackmagic full frame with the new Sirui anamorphic, but it didn't make sense for this trip, sadly. It was a work trip for my Shark Tank company, Third Wave Water. Join us as we help coffee drinkers around the world finally experience coffee like it was meant to be. So I didn't know how much free time I would have, but I had this ridiculous idea that I could write a short film on the plane to Spain and then film some sort of scenes at these amazing locations while in Europe. Forcing myself to write in a short period of time really pushes creativity. It's totally worth the exercise. I know I'm not alone in trying such a ridiculous idea to try to write a film, a short film in like 6 hours. Did it work? Yes and no. Yes, I did come up with an amazing new story idea. No, I didn't film anything worthy to use in a film. Instead, I learned to appreciate the S5IIX's ability as a photography camera even more. In this video, I'm going to share 3 scenarios where the S5IIX really performed well, and then 3 things I wish I had done differently. Number 1, get the shots in crowded locations. Sure, you could try to come back later when less people would be there, but this is a challenge if you're trying to get a shot at a specific time, like sunset. Or you could try to find another location to shoot from as well, but I found the flip screen on the S5IIX saved me here, and I could avoid both situations while still braving the crowds. Since my time was short in Venice, I couldn't revisit the Rialto Bridge for a great sunset shot, but so many people were in the way, especially on the top of the bridge where it felt like the best shots were going to be. So I selected high-speed burst, held up my arms high, and took a few sets, adjusting settings between, watching the framing and the screen above my head. And it really turned out okay. Number 2, immediate access to the light triangle. Having all 3 dials available for the light triangle definitely helped quickly change any major settings for the shots. Here's how you set it up. Select the gear, 3rd icon, operation 1, dial set 5, which makes the front dial f-stop and the back dial shutter speed. Then select control dial and select it to ISO. Now you can quickly change f-stop on the front dial, shutter speed on the back dial, and ISO on the control dial. For all my recommendations for best settings for photos, see this video. Number 3, custom modes. Before I left on the trip, I already saved multiple custom modes to help me quickly change a lot of settings instantly. And what's even cooler is you can save 12 custom modes, not just 3. So don't get confused by the dial because it says C1, C2, and C3. C3, or Custom Mode 3, can hold 10 modes by itself. To expand Custom Mode 3 to hold 10 custom modes, select the wrench icon, then 6 down, then the Setting tab, which is 6 down. Custom Mode Settings, select Limit Number of Custom Mode, and then select 10. I think 3 is preset from the factory. Now when you select C3 on the right dial, just press the menu set button on the back and select the large C in the upper left corner, then scroll to your preferred custom mode. The modes I currently have are photo, 5.9K RAW when I'm hooked up to the video assist, 3.3K when using the Sirui 1.33 anamorphic, 4K no IBIS for tripod shots because IBIS will cause sensor float when filming on a tripod, 1.5 anamorphic 75mm and 1.5 anamorphic 75mm no IBIS. The Sirui anamorphic lens is actually 1.6, but the S5IIX only has 1.5 D-squeeze. This doesn't affect what's being recorded, only what's being displayed on the camera, so I can better frame the shot. Okay, now the 3 things I wish I would have done differently on this trip. Number 1, I wish I would have set the shutter to EFC. You can see in some of my pictures how the background is just a little blurry when you pixel peep, and I think EFC, or electronic front curtain, would have fixed this. Primarily because I was handheld shooting, and I think I would have avoided shutter shock. EFC is a kind of perfect combination between a mechanical shutter and electronic shutter. The shot starts with an electronic shutter, but ends with the mechanical shutter. This helps avoid those tiny vibrations that can blur the image, especially in the background if you're using a long lens or handheld shooting. So you get the proper exposure with the mechanical shutter, avoiding banding or warping of objects that you get with an electronic shutter, while also avoiding blur induced in the background by the movement of the shutter itself. There's a great article by Photography Life in 2019 that goes into more details about differences of the types of shutters and when to use them. The link's in the description if you want to read more about it. The S5IIX also has an additional shutter delay option if the blur is still present with EFC that might also help. This provides an additional 1 to 8 second delay after you press the button to take the shot and does not affect the actual exposure. Go to Camera, Others, just 6 down, Photo 1, Shutter Delay, and select 1 to 8 seconds. Number 2, I wish I would have used RAW plus JPEG and not just JPEG. I just didn't catch the option when I was taking photos until after I got back. The biggest reason is because JPEG photos are 8-bit, whereas RAW images are 14-bit unless you shoot in high-speed bursts. Then the RAW images drop to 12-bit, but even that is still much better than 8-bit JPEG. The big advantage of RAW and a higher bit rate is that the image holds more information, allowing better color grade and more detail when compressed. Number 3, the camera strap. The strap was comfortable, but it held the camera on my chest in a weird position. I just didn't like it. It didn't feel natural for some reason. Maybe I could get used to it. I don't know. I didn't use it long enough to really find out. I wish I would have had one like Clay Enos did in Honduras. He had 2 straps, one on each side for multiple cameras, and his setup looked way more comfortable than mine. What camera strap do you use, especially with just one camera setup? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to see my video for the best settings for filming video, then go to this video. Let me know what you think about the photos. Okay, what about this story idea I mentioned in the beginning? My initial idea was to throw some kind of object in the air and then use the up and down motion as a transition to match cut from one location to another. But I didn't have an object selected until I flew into Washington, D.C. airport, which was my last connecting flight before leaving to Madrid. I found this small collectible coin and it seemed interesting enough to work. Now that I had my object, I started writing on the airplane and even did some research about coins, and the story grew into a pretty fun world. I used the direction from a book called Finish the Script by Scott King to help organize the story and stopped at the beat sheet, mainly because the story isn't filmable by my small production team. So the story has to be reworked, which is completely normal. You have to go back to square one and figure out what you can pull to make the story still interesting and filmable. Last year I released a short fan film for Stargate called Unity, which was just good enough to not break everything while filming. It is a fun story continuing the Stargate adventure on the last planet that Daniel Jackson said they were visiting, which was planet P3K546.
There are still many planets in our gate system that remain unexplored.
Yes, let's see what mysteries P3K546 will hold. And what treasure.
But we never get to go to the planet to see what's there. I wanted to discover what was there and write some short story of discovery 5 years after the fact, after they had visited. So be sure to watch the behind the scenes for that short film here, and the short film for Unity here. I'm finishing more videos related to all of the aspects of filming a short film, so be sure to subscribe and follow to be alerted when those videos are released. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.